Welcome back. First episode, Hughes and Views. We are known for drinking and doing things, but I guess sometimes we drink and view things.
Oh my God, you didn't.
Oh, Halloween is over. Halloween just passed. During Halloween, we watched a movie that we want to talk about, and it's safe to talk about it now because Halloween's passed. We're not going to spoil it for the 4 people on Earth, apparently, that haven't seen this movie yet.
Well, we were 2 of the 4, evidently.
So there's 2 people left on Earth that haven't seen this movie yet, and the movie was?
Hocus Pocus.
Hocus Pocus.
Oh, come on. It's just a bunch of hocus pocus.
Did we like it? Did we hate it? Are we indifferent? Stick around, find out.
Yeah, cheers.
Cheers. Hocus Pocus. 1993, Disney Pictures. The Sanderson sisters, 3 witches. So, quick story plot. Salem, Massachusetts, witch trials. Sanderson sisters are 3 witches. Historical fact, the Salem witch trials were over by 1693, but the 300-year story wouldn't have worked in 1993 if they had made it 1692. So 1993, Disney Pictures. So the original screenplay, it was called Halloween House, actually. So David Kirshner wrote it. He got Mark Garris to write the screenplay. Disney actually bought the rights to the movie in 1984.
Really?
So they held on. It was shelved for a while. And when the writer, David Kirshner and Mark Garris, the screenplay writer, pitched it to Disney, they got there early, and in the boardroom before the Disney executives got there, they covered the conference room table with 25 pounds of candy corn.
Really?
They did. So Disney buys it, changes the name of it to Disney's Halloween House. Movie doesn't get made.
Huh.
Sits on the shelf for 10 years. Every so often somebody drags it out, they kick it around, and somehow Bette Midler gets a copy of it. She reads it. She reaches out to Disney and says, I want to play the witch in this. And they're like, all right, well, now that we have somebody, we have a well-known star that's interested and on board, they decide to make it. So Bette Midler's on board. They decide to make the movie. Mm-hmm. They approach Steven Spielberg. He turns them down because he thinks that they're a direct competitor at the time to his separate production company. So they get Kenny Ortega to direct the movie. Kenny Ortega had actually worked with Bette Midler before in The Rose.
Oh.
So he gladly took on the project. He also was a choreographer before, so he did choreography for Michael Jackson, Gloria Estefan. He did the choreography for Dirty Dancing.
I've been waiting for so long now. I finally found someone to stand by me.
Ooh.
And Ferris Bueller's Day Off, that famous dancing movie.
Famous dance movie. I'm pretty sure he was behind High School Musical as well.
He was behind High School Musical as well. So actually, while Disney had planned to make it off and on, the lead witch role was actually originally offered to Rosie O'Donnell, and she turned it down saying, I don't want to play a witch. So the actor that ended up playing Max had auditioned but got turned down. So literally, within 2 or 3, maybe 7 days before they were going to start filming, they had to call him up, tell him, you got the part, get out here and start shooting the movie.
Shoot.
The 3 witches, right? Bette Midler, Sarah Jessica Parker, and Kathy Najimy. So Kathy Najimy got offered the role. She was very excited because she was a huge Bette Midler fan. Literally, admitted that she had stalked her and actually gone to her house to try to meet her before. So she was so excited and awestruck to be working with her.
Just wanted to work with her.
Yeah, so she took the part. And then Allison, the character Allison, was played by
Vanessa Shaw.
That character they couldn't make a decision on. and they decided to give it to her the night before and flew her out to start filming the next day.
Why did they do this to these poor actors?
Why couldn't they decide?
No time to
There's no
prepare.
shortage of actors.
All right.
So Hocus Pocus.
Hocus.
The plot.
Pocus.
Just storyline. Don't want to spoil this for the two other people that haven't seen the movie yet.
Jump back. Twist the bones and bend the back.
Back in 1693, the people of Salem, Massachusetts, witches,
Yes?
thought they got rid of the Sanderson sisters for good.
We shall be back.
Salem witch trials, Sanderson sisters, 3 witches. They have to kill children, I guess, to stay young or be immortal. So they
Immortal, I think.
So back in 1693, they kill Emily. So Emily Birch
Okay.
and her brother Thackeray Birch.
Thackeray.
Thackeray. That's fun to say. How come
Thackeray.
people don't name their kids Thackeray anymore?
Thackeray.
So they kill Emily, which is why the 3 sisters get hung. Before they get hung, they turn Thackeray into a cat who has to live forever as a cat.
Right.
Fast forward, 1993, Halloween night,
Right.
Max, Allison, and
Danny.
Danny go to what is the closed museum, which is the former Sanderson sisters' house. He lights the candle. The Virgin lights the black candle. The 3 sisters come back to life. It's Halloween night. All kinds of shenanigans ensue. And they're basically trying to catch and kill Danny to
Right. To stay immortal.
to stay immortal, because
Right.
if they don't, by the time the sun comes up,
Right.
they turn to dust. Got it. And so the story goes, they chase him around. They eventually, with the help of Billy, who is Winifred's, Bette Midler's, dead husband, who she poisoned and sewed his mouth shut,
You are giving it all away to the 2 people.
to the 2 people that haven't seen Hocus Pocus yet. And then, anyways, they end up, with the help of Billy, killing the 3 witches. They turn to dust. Thackeray gets released from his life as a cat. He then walks out the gates, reunited with his sister, Emily.
Right.
And again, I've said this before when we watched it. The big part of the storyline, right, is like Thackeray and Emily, a brother and sister.
Right.
That transpires or transcends into the modern day storyline
Max
of
and Danny.
Max and Danny, which is kind of, I guess that's meant to be a parallel, right? So that's kind of the 5-second overview of the plot. What did you think about the plot, the storyline? Now just stick to the story, the storyline. I know you have a lot to say about all aspects of the movie, but what did you think?
The plot itself, just if I read it in a book, it was good. If I was just going to sit down and read it, it was good. I like the story.
So
Yes.
your take is
I like the story.
storyline is good,
Interesting.
but you're going to say that the execution in this movie was poor.
Did not care for it at all.
They did well.
At
You're
all.
saying that they did a bad job at telling the story.
No, that you're putting words in my mouth.
Oh.
Don't put words in my mouth. I guess I just wonder, every time I mention this movie to somebody, they're shocked that we hadn't seen it yet. And then once we had seen it, when I share my opinion that I didn't like it, they're shocked that I didn't like it. If I were to sit down and read the book and turn the pages, I enjoyed it. Or I think I would enjoy reading the story.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
It makes sense. And then the movie, how did the movie do telling the story? Just
For
the
me-
flow. Did it flow, and did they lose you?
They lost me.
Did they execute the storyline, but there was too many distractions that you couldn't get over?
I don't know about distractions. I think I just personally didn't care for it.
So when you watch a good movie and you're like totally immersed and you're in the story, you never immersed.
I was never that far in. No, I wasn't that invested.
Okay. I started that way when it first started. First of all, I thought I had seen this movie before, but after we started watching the story, it wasn't the one I thought. So they begin with the storyline being in 1693, And so that's when I realized I hadn't seen it before, and I thought maybe the whole movie took place in that time period, and I was like, wasn't really feeling it. Then it, obviously, you have that Wizard of Oz moment where they're like, oh, it's modern day, and like, got it, that makes sense. The first part of the witches being hung, not really interesting. The story comes to modern day, the school, high school, oh, the new kid moved here. I thought that was just, I get it. It's a it's probably a kid's movie, although there's plenty of double entendres, which we'll talk about. But the whole new kid in school, oh, the girl meets the girl was like, that's like, and then the bullies, like, too corny. Like, I get it. I almost thought it was a parody of an 80s movie, but maybe it wasn't. It just hadn't, time-wise, it just looks hokier than it was then. Anyways, didn't get it there. But eventually, like the Halloween night part, that story, the scene where, Gary and Penny Marshall come in, when the character Billy comes into the storyline, by that point, I was like in the immersion part. Like, I was watching it for the story, and I had got past all of this is going to be a tough story to follow through. So then the story goes on, and it was fine. So I think story-wise, the plot, they sucked me into the story at some point in the movie. You're like, what? Characters.
There were some characters.
There were some characters. The characters themselves, liked them, didn't like them. Which one did you like? Which one you didn't like? Which characters you think were well acted? Which characters were horribly acted? Which
I felt like the acting throughout was pretty terrible. I'm not gonna lie. I was surprised. I didn't know that Sarah Jessica Parker was in this movie. I didn't do a whole lot of research into it before sitting down to watch it. And so in the beginning, I was kind of like, is that SJP? Is it not? And then once I realized it was her, I was like, oh, that's kind of interesting. But I didn't care for her as a character. I did like Billy. I thought Billy was hilarious. I thought it was kind of quirky and funny when the Penny Marshall and Gary Marshall, thank you.
Brother and sisters, which play
the fact that they did like
in the
little cameo in there, I thought was funny, but I have thoughts on that whole scene over and above just the fact that they were in the movie. But overall, I wasn't really bought into any of the characters, which is maybe why I had trouble throughout the movie.
The acting for me was pretty tough to get over. The witches, the characters of the witches, I really didn't get at first, get at all. Now, I read that the director wanted it to be very much physical comedy. So the whole little bit of slapstick, Three Stooges, a lot of the slapping and hitting, he wanted that. I don't know why, but I guess,
don't either.
So that made the characters seem a little weird.
That kind of explains a lot to me, because it did sort of strike me as, for those of you that are 100 years old like we are and remember the Three Stooges, it sort of reminded me a lot of the Three Stooges slapstick type comedy, which I never cared for back in the day. So that would sort of explain why.
And I get it. This wasn't supposed to be an Academy Award winning drama. I get that. But the characters were just a little too goofy for me. Like we said, like Sarah, the witch Sarah, was really weird because it was like this flirtatious toddler.
Well, she started off as sort of the dumb blonde. I sort of just thought like, oh, she's the dumb blonde sister. But then she turned into like a vixen almost.
Which is
and
weird.
It was like,
and Bette Midler.
It was hard to watch sort of for me. I don't know.
Right. And Bette Midler's character was, I guess, she probably did a okay job acting, but she had this weird accent that kind of came and went, which I kind of didn't get. And then Mary, I'm not sure what she was going for with that character. Like I said, she played it almost like a character that had a stroke, because she had this weird like droopy mouth thing, which I'm not sure what she was going for there. The kids all acted as be expected. They weren't. I think it was the witches that I really couldn't get past.
Well, because those were like the big names in the movie, so you had sort of high hopes for at least those three.
Right.
As the headliners of the movie, but it was, and maybe now that I'm hearing that was Kenny Ortega's intention, that he wanted them to act that way. I don't know why. I just didn't get it.
Favorite scene or scenes?
Well, I did. So the Bette Midler, Sarah and Mary singing on. I went Bette Midler, Sarah and Mary. Let me back up.
Winifred.
Favorite scene: Winifred, Sarah, and Mary when they performed at the Halloween party. The kids are all blocking their ears, trying to get the adults not to listen. So they don't go into the trance or whatever. Dance until you die.
Dance for life.
Dance till you're dead or whatever it was. That was probably my favorite scene.
That was a good scene. And when that scene happened, I had mentioned to you, I'm like, oh, was this supposed to be a musical?
A musical. I think maybe I would have enjoyed it more if there was a little more of that.
But I guess it wasn't. But
Right.
the director who had worked with Bette Midler, again, I think on The Rose, said, I'm absolutely going to have at least one musical scene. So they did that. Mm-hmm. Favorite scene? I think it's going to be, and it's a small little part, and it's not even a big part of the storyline.
I know what you're going to say.
But it's when Billy, Bette Midler or Winifred is trying to get Billy to kill Max in the graveyard. And Max has got the pocket knife, and Billy pulls the knife away from him, and you think, oh, he's going to kill Billy. And he cuts his mouth open that Bette Midler had sewn shut when she poisoned him, so he can start yelling at her, calling her all these things.
Don't come along now! Come along now! Kill him! Do it now!
Wench! Trollop! You buck-toothed, mop-riding firefly from hell!
Ah!
I've waited centuries to say that.
Oh, say what you want, just don't breathe on me.
And he's talking to Max going, I've been waiting 300 years to say that. And he's like, say whatever you want, just don't breathe on me. It's a blip, but it's a hilarious scene.
You're right.
The scene in when Master Gary and Penny Marshall's whole scene is pretty funny, if not a really weird.
Isn't it's not? I don't know. It was weird. His wife's upstairs. He's dancing with these women in his living room. I don't know. It got really bizarre in that point in the movie when they're on the bus with the bus driver. That whole scene to me was
So would that be
creep level way up here?
The bus scene would that be your least favorite scene?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
My
I
least-
didn't understand that, and I was kind of taken aback by it, and this is supposed to be a Disney movie, but the double entendres and it was
I don't know
surprising.
what my least favorite scene would be. I don't know if I could pick just one. I mean, I don't know. There'd be a whole host of them, I think, but
of least favorites.
Well, of scenes that you probably I would have edited out. They would have edited, ended up on the editing floor. So, film-wise, which I know it's Halloween night, and but from what I read, they spent an enormous amount of time and detail building the whole set around the Sanderson sisters' house. That was all built on a soundstage, all of it, and it was a real house they built. And then reading that after we watched it, I think a lot of it was lost. Maybe it was. I'd have to go back and look at some of the scenes, but maybe it was filmed too dark. But
I don't know.
I don't think that level of movie, meaning, what it's supposed to be. I guess you're not expecting these beautiful cinematic scenes, but I'd say it was just okay. But it probably wasn't meant to be a big part of the movie, so I give it a C.
Yeah.
C for scenery.
A C minus.
For scenery.
C minus.
C minus for scenery.
Mm-hmm. Would you watch it again?
Would I watch it again? I might.
Really?
It grew on me. It grew on me, and I get it. And I know that the movie didn't do well when it was released. Obviously, it was pulled from the theaters 7 days in. Pulled.
I'm not surprised.
And it didn't do well for years, and then it eventually got a little bit of a cult following, similar to movies like A Christmas Story. Didn't do well initially. Years later, and I think almost for the same reason, some channel did a 24-hour marathon, which happened, I think, to Christmas Story, which is why it became a cult classic. And I think somebody did that with this movie. And now it's kind of a cult classic. So I bet you people watch it just because now it's part of their tradition. They think about it and it brings Halloween, like, you know, to life or whatever. So would I watch it again? I think I might. Maybe you should give it another try next Halloween and see. But so
maybe,
I would probably watch it again. Overall, it started out, it was the worst movie I had ever seen. They won me over a little bit in the, you know, I don't know, a third of the way in, and by the end of it, it was acceptable. Acceptable movie.
Acceptable.
So would you watch it again? Final thoughts?
Sitting here right now, check back with me next Halloween, maybe. I don't know. It's maybe something that I would play in the background while I'm cooking dinner or folding laundry or something. It's not something that I'd be like, oh my God, it's Halloween. We get to watch Hocus Pocus. Like,
All right.
not for me.
And that's what we thought about Hocus Pocus. Let us know what you thought about in the comments below. And while you're down there typing your comment, hit that subscribe button. And tell them what we're going to do, Karen.
We're going to give away our copy of Hocus Pocus.
We're going to give away our endeared copy of Hocus Pocus to one
lucky
random
commenter.
Lucky random commenter below. So until the next time, I'm Kevin.
I'm Karen.
And that's the first episode of
Hughes and Views.